we can we can get started. So, hello and welcome everybody. My name is Marlene and I'm a health coach and health educator with Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. And today's presentation is on hydration. And particularly in the summer weather like this, we all know we need to be staying hydrated. Water everywhere. It literally is. If you go into the grocery store these days, you're going to see entire aisle that's all different waters, and then a whole different aisle that's other drinks, juices and sodas and such. So there's plenty of things out there that are available to drink, but what should we be drinking? And how much. So, water is known as the elixir of life. And that's basically because every system in your body requires it to function. A human being can live 3 to 4 weeks actually without taking in food, but really only 3 to 4 days without water. That's how important it is as part of our systems. Our bodies are made up of over 60% water, and it's literally found in all of your major organs. Water is so important for your health. Maintaining body temperature, that's one of the first ones. If you overheat, you're dehydrated, there's issues. All the nutrients and oxygen in our blood is transferred to our cells via water transport. Our oxygen, we need water to moisten the oxygen for breathing. It helps us to convert food to energy. So it literally does help with metabolism. If you're dehydrated, you're not going to metabolize your food as well. So that's another biggie. It helps your body absorb the nutrients that you're getting from food, and protects and acts like a cushion, a buffer for your vital organs, as we jump around. And lubricates your joints, and so really healthy for all your joints as well, and helps us, of course, to remove waste. So how much water we have if we're dehydrated, you have a lot of issues, but there are a lot of different ways that we expel water. It's not just about sweating. A lot of people will say, well, I don't sweat that much, so I don't need to drink that much, but you're not just about sweating. Every breath you take, you are releasing water. Of course, when you're exercising, when you are sweating, you're releasing water. Certain drinks that we actually drink, particularly alcoholic drinks, create a system where our body releases a lot more water than we're taking in by those particular beverages. Of course, anytime you're sick and you have a fever, there's always a deficit of fluids. And some kinds of medications can actually create a system where you're chronically dehydrated. So some medications you have to drink, be mindful to drink extra water. When you don't have enough water, there's a whole lot of things that can start to happen. Even mild dehydration starts to affect your system. It can affect your cognition. It can make you tired, all the way up to severe dehydration. So dizziness and headaches quite frequently. If you get that sort of midday headache and you're not sure, maybe think about how much water you've had. Your blood pressure, it certainly affects because, blood is moved, partly water, and moved through your body that way. You could have muscle spasms if you aren't hydrated properly, if your muscles are not hydrated properly. Heat cramps and heat exhaustion, heat stroke. We tend to think of that simply as happening if you are doing a lot of exercising or activity during a very warm weather, but that can happen, pretty easily. There are people who suffer from cramping, dehydration, even in winter months. So that can happen quite frequently. All the way up to, the far end of the spectrum, chronic dehydration or really severe dehydration can create seizures or shock, leading to organ damage or muscle damage. So, a lot of reasons why water is such an important aspect in our life. We've probably all heard you need to be drinking 8 cups a day, and that's probably a great place to start. The actual numbers, though, are a little different than that, and it obviously depends on your own body size and your activity level. Generally, you could say, well, minimum of half your body weight. So if you're 150 pounds, maybe 75 ounces of water, whatever. But for women, the general recommendations are more like 11.5 cups per day, but that also includes about 20% of the liquid that you're consuming with your food. So that's about 9 cups a day overall, and men 15.5 cups with food, or 12.5 cups a day overall. And so, that's another thing. We think about water just as drinking, but we get a lot of hydration from a lot of the foods that we eat. So if you are fasting or doing intermittent fasting, whatever, you want to make sure that you're hydrating, because you aren't getting as much water from the foods that you're eating. And water, plain water, we know can be, it's pretty bland, but there are so many different ways that you can add some fun to your water. And I'll show you a couple of different options when we go off the video here. But certainly, any of your citrus fruits make really delicious flavors for water. Melon foods are high water content. All of your tropicals, certainly delicious. Berries. Some of you get into a little bit more dense fruits and vegetables, like apples, for instance, or grapes. Those things you may have to let soak longer in order to get the flavor, but they can still be used. The other thing is, some of your vegetables, particularly cucumber, very high water content, and herbs, which can create some nice flavors as well. So just some options. There's really no limit to the different things you can do when hydrating your water. And then, the thing is that if, like anything, if you don't measure it or quantify it, you always kind of maybe assume that you're getting enough, but you're never sure. So there's a bunch of different apps that are out that can help you determine whether you are taking in enough water or not. And sometimes it's good just to do that once in a while, just to make sure that you are getting enough water. And here's just a listing of a few of those applications. And then I'm just, today I've made this watermelon Aqua Fresca. I have a couple of recipes, but a way to think about it, I know infused water, the recipes, the different citrus fruits and melons and things where you just pop it in a glass of water and let it infuse are great. But sometimes it's really fun to increase your water intake in a different way. So Aqua Frescas are a wonderful option for that. Super easy to make. All you really need is a blender or a bullet. But you take in any kind of a high water content fruit or vegetable and blending it with some water and some other flavorings, whether lemon juice or lime juice, sometimes herbs in there, and you get a really nice mixture for that. So we've got a couple of different ones, different melons, and these recipes will be on the video, so you have that. So that is the end of the PowerPoint portion. And so welcome to my kitchen. So, as I mentioned, there's a lot of different waters to choose from. And I think that is one of the things that people are always questioning. As I said, you go into a grocery store these days and there's aisles of different waters. So what are the differences in the water? So let's talk about that. So, there's always regular tap water and it's found everywhere and the stuff comes out of your faucet. Some people will avoid drinking tap water because of concerns over safety. But in the US, it's generally considered safe, and your community has to test their water, and there are water ratings for your community. So it's something you could probably Google if you have a concern about the water coming out of your tap. The thing with tap water is we're not bottling it and transporting it, so it's certainly much more economical and ecologically probably better for our planet. And there are a lot of different ways, like Brita filters or whole house filters that you can use that will remove any of maybe the pesticide residues or of the particles that are in your water. But you can always check with your community. The other thing is mineral water. So there's water, most water is going to have minerals in it anyway, because it comes from the ground. And so you think about iron and copper and manganese and potassium and all of those, magnesium. So when you're thinking about mineral waters, things like the Fiji here or this Icelandic is glacial water, they're basically waters that are come from underground springs that have adapted or attracted a lot of the minerals along the way. And then they're bottled at the source and sold. So, you know, you're going to get a lot more minerals in that potentially than you would in something else. One of the main downsides to this is, of course, the cost, especially when you compare it to tap water. And many of the minerals that you're getting out of here are also can be obtained from you know, a healthy, varied diet. All your fruits and vegetables, for instance, will have a lot of the same minerals. So that's the spring or glacial waters. Relatively, they should, in theory, be relatively clean and free of toxins because they're coming, you know, they haven't been processed. Um, but you know, it's not necessarily tested, so you never really know. And certainly, again, they're a little bit more expensive. So think about mineral waters. I don't know if any of you use distilled water. This here is distilled water. When you go into the, you know, gallon jugs, you can often find distilled water. So what the difference with distilled water is, the water has actually been boiled and then the condensation has been recollected and condensed back into a liquid. And the way what this does is that it removes all of the minerals, vitamins, everything else that would have been in the regular water. So you don't get the health benefits from them. Some people, you know, some the potential is there for it to be detrimental because the suggestion is that non-mineralized water, if you're drinking a lot of it, can be pulling minerals from your system, specifically your teeth, the enamel on your teeth, but generally considered healthy. And for people who maybe have an issue related to, you know, over ingesting minerals or different things they might be sensitive to, distilled water might be a good choice. It's also great if you have a steam iron, because the distilled water, you don't get the buildup of all the hard calcium and things like that that's in regular water. So that's distilled water. That's what you get from there. Then you have things like this. So Aquafina is, I think, made by I want to say it's the Coca-Cola company or the Pepsi company, one of the big companies. So what this is actually purified water. It's usually some kind of a tap water that's been treated to remove all the, so it's somebody else. It's a big company taking the tap water and then they're treating it and putting it through their filtration process, bottling it, and then sending it out. So it's generally guaranteed to be safe. And it's a great option if you have any issues or concerns about your own tap water being contaminated. But that said, like I say, most countries are purifying their own tap water, so you're basically drinking purified tap water every time you get it from your sink. And you may be missing out on potentially some of the beneficial minerals and things that that your tap water might have added to it, things like fluoride, which has been added to a lot of tap waters to prevent tooth decay. So again, bottling, processing, all of that adds to the cost, but generally a safe bet. There's a whole big thing now with alkaline waters. I don't have one here, but alkaline water, you might see, you know, high alkaline water or pH water. I think Essentia might be one and a few others. And essentially what that is that they have a bit of a higher pH level than normal water because they have added additional alkaline minerals to it. Some people believe that this helps to neutralize acid in your body, so there's some health benefit to it that hasn't been completely proven yet, but for some folks that there's some scientific proof that they use or some scientific suggestions. So it's generally safe to drink any of these alkaline waters, but it could reduce stomach acidity if you change in the pH balance, and that might limit your ability to kill off harmful bacteria in your own system. And then we have carbonated waters. So sparkling waters or carbonated waters. And, you know, there's just hundreds and hundreds of these different brands. All the stores have their own brands and there's so many great flavors. And I absolutely love these. There's so many great combinations of flavors. It's a refreshing beverage. It's basically water that they've added carbon too, like if you have a soda stream, that's basically what you're doing. Um, so the apart uh, there are natural carbonated waters, natural spring waters, things like Perrier and San Pellegrino. Those don't have added flavors to them. They come out of the ground with a slight carbonation to them. And they tend to have, more mineral and sulfur compounds. But the pH balance of carbonated water is about a 3 to 4, which means it's slightly acidic. So, but drinking that beverages doesn't necessarily make your body more acidic. So, because your lungs and your kidneys remove any of the extra carbon dioxide, so your body stays pretty level. One of the concerns some people have about drinking sparkling water is the effect on your teeth. Little research about this, but one study found that sparkling mineral water might damage your enamel. I think you'd have to be drinking a lot of that. But the reality is these are really pretty safe to drink, and they have some nice flavors to it. If you drink it all day long, maybe you want to switch it up with some regular water or rinse your mouth after. So if you have any concern about dental work. There's some suggestion that when you drink a carbonated beverage, it can kind of extend your feeling of fullness. So it helps a little bit with that more than, say, plain water. So that's our carbonated waters. Now, what I want to talk about in terms of hydration, though, is you have to really be a savvy consumer, because this water and this water, and to look at it in the thing, they look exactly the same. And this is a carbonated water, but this water actually has ingredients in it that added to it. It actually has aspartame and other types of ingredients added that you may not want in your diet. So they all look pretty much the same, but you have to be a savvy consumer. And that brings us to some other types of hydration products that people are drinking out there that I just want to go over a little bit, because, we get bored with plain water. Now, first of all, soda. Soda is really not, watching out for the aspartame. You're right. They're pretty sneaky about that. Soda, I mean, we look at this, we know this is not a healthful beverage, but sometimes people are like, oh, what's the difference? It's hot, let me drink something. But the reality is this bottle of soda has 65 grams of sugar in it. And that is like almost double what the recommendation is for a human being for a single day for an adult. So 65 grams of sugar, you're really taking in a lot of things, plain sugar that you don't want to be doing. In addition, when you look at Coca-Cola, it's one of the few drinks that really has been shown to impact dental health, dark beverages like this. So this you want to be careful of. So of course, a lot of us know, okay, well, this isn't my best choice. But then you see things like this. This is a sparkling ice drink. You'll find this. And it calls itself a flavored sparkling water with 0 sugar, and they've added vitamins and antioxidants into that. And that's great. But again, it's only 5 calories, but it's been sweetened with sucralose, which is Splendor. So if you have a concern about artificial sweeteners, this you would want to take a look at. Iced teas are another one. Now, to make your own pitcher of iced tea, iced green tea, everything else, that's great. But when you go and you start with bottled iced teas, you really have to read the labels. This particular bottle, 36 grams of sugar. So you really have to be a little bit savvy about those types of drinks too. Traditionally, really making your own at home is probably the best bet. Now, vitamin water sounds like such a wonderful, wonderful thing, because they've taken this water, they've flavored it with natural flavors, and then they've put some additional vitamins in it, things that you might want some extra vitamin C or B vitamins or whatever. And so you think this might be a very hydrating, safe, healthy drink to have, and it's not terrible for you. But again, 25 grams of sugar have been added to this bottle. So always, always, always read the labels, because things that, we call this the health halo when they use words like natural, healthy, good for you, things like that. That's the health halo. And finally, the green stuff. You see this on the soccer field with all the little kids. They're all carrying this around. Excuse me, I have a pet visiting today, and he's a little stressed out. So anyway, so Gatorade, It's one of those things we think about, oh, lose electrolytes. This is going to have all my potassium and electrolytes. I've seen, young people drink a whole bottle this size. A bottle of this, literally 58 grams of sugar. You would have to be really, really working hard to lose that many electrolytes, especially for very young children. Even the smaller ones are probably close to 40 grams of sugar. If you are using that, you're better off watering it down than to, give it to them straight. Okay. So those are a lot of different, that's our little mini education on all the different water sources that are out there. But the next time you go to the grocery, walk up and down those aisles. Simon, it's okay. Excuse me. Walk up and down those aisles and you will see that there's really a lot going on there, and you have to read the labels. But you don't just get your water from beverages. Certainly if you do, I like to use frozen fruit. If you put frozen fruit in a diffuser and drink it, this is pineapple that's been sitting in here. This is going to be delicious. I know what's in it. It's just my plain water and pineapple, and you can do plain club soda with that as well. This one over here, I've just done frozen raspberries in. You can add a little lime juice to that as well. So, just a great way to change it up a little bit. Of course, I start my day out every day with warm water with just lemon slices, and I'll just keep refilling this as the day goes on just for hydration. So, simple ways to boost your water intake. But there's also a lot of foods that you eat. You can eat your water in a sense, because particularly in the summer, salad greens, things like, leafy greens, lettuce, you can actually see the water on the leaves. There's so much water content in that. So when you think about making a salad, for instance, you're going to be getting that 20% of hydration from your salad. Watermelon, it's about 90% water. Cucumber, 95% water. Even an apple is going to be high in water content. Of course, your citrus, things like that. So, a nice big salad with all kinds of vegetables. All your vegetables are going to have some water content in, fruit and vegetables. That's going to be a great way to stay hydrated throughout the course of the day. And then anytime you're freezing some of these blends, it's a great thing too. Now, I blended this earlier so you wouldn't have to listen to the horrible, horrible sound of my blender. But what I've done with this is the Aqua Fresca that we were talking about. So what's in here is a cup of fresh cut up watermelon, and I've done the juice of a lime and 1 cup of water. So 1 fruit, 1 water, and then the juice of a lime. And when you pour that in, you get this super, super beautiful, somewhat thick, really refreshing, really satisfying, hydrating drink. Just a great way to just boost up your hydration. The kids would love this, I'm sure. I use fresh watermelon. You can do this same thing with any of the melons. They're really good, like cantaloupe or honeydew. They make a beautiful drink. You can add herbs to that. The recipe for cantaloupe actually has basil with it, which is super yummy, adding that flavor to it. Mint is always delicious. You could put mint in this one as well with the lime juice. So the Aqua Fresca is a great way to do it. You can also get the pitchers that have the diffuser piece in it, so that like this, my fruit is floating in the water, and I don't mind that because I'll eat that as I'm drinking. But the diffuser pitchers, you can put all the fruits in there and just it'll diffuse into the water without the fruit itself diffusing into the water. So those are some really great options to have. But this one I think is beautiful, a little piece of lime or cucumber on the side, and you really have a nice, super hydrating, super healthy drink to have. I've done them also if you're not looking to not have as much sugar, even natural sugars are still sugars, with cucumbers. But this is one of the English cucumbers, and they're not as hydrating. So if you were to use a regular cucumber, then you could blend that up. I think I had cucumber and lime juice, and I want to say a rosemary sprig or something in that, and it was super yummy. That was delicious. So why warm water versus cold water? Well, in the morning time, I just like it. I like it warm. I don't like to drink the super cold water, and I feel like it diffuses the lemon juice quicker in a warm water. So what I do is, a glass like this size, I'll do, this is the slice of half a lemon. And when I slice the lemons up, just so you know too, I slice them, into rounds because the greater surface available to diffuse, you get a more lemony flavor out of that when you slice it into rounds versus into wedges for your diffusing. So I slice that into rounds, and that would be the same for any of your fruits. If you were to do an apple or something, try to get as much open surface as possible. So this is about a half of a lemon, and what I do is I fill about half the glass with just, I like keep a lot of my water not at room temperature, and then I'll use my tea kettle and boil a little bit. And just that warm, I think, starts the cleansing and digestion process pretty well for me. And I like to have a warm drink in the morning. So I try to get through at least one full one of those before I start on coffee, which I can smell in the background brewing, and it's delicious. And that's another thing I should mention about coffee. I know for a lot of people, we've been told that if you drink a lot of coffee all day and you're not drinking water, that's super dehydrating. And that's somewhat been debunked, because when you think about a cup of coffee, if it's a 12-ounce coffee, it's 12 ounces of liquid of water that's been brewed with the coffee. The amount of caffeine is not that so much that it offsets all of that water. So you are still getting hydration with that. I wouldn't recommend that as the only way you hydrate, but certainly you are still getting hydration with coffees and teas, unless you're drinking espresso shots. Then you're just getting some really good caffeine without a whole lot of the water. Yes. So in terms of drinking water, right? You would your body has to work a little harder. I see somebody posted, we burn more calories if we drink cold drinks, and your body does have to work a little harder to warm the fluid to your body temperature when it goes in. So there's probably a little bit more of a thermogenic calorie burn based on that. The warm water for me in the morning is really more cleansing and hydrating. It's just easier for me to drink in the morning, but it doesn't have to be. It can be anything. It's just a great habit to get into when you think about, if you've been sleeping for 8 hours, if you're lucky and you sleep 8 hours a day, to wake up in the morning so that you flush your system a little bit, because all that you've been sort of concentrating in that period of time. So it's just a good habit to get into. I feel like it just helps to, wake your body systems up so that they do the things that they're supposed to do. Anybody else? Anybody have any really favorite add-ins that you do with your water that you'd like to share with the group? This one went fast. I'm usually over on the other end, but I'm here to answer any questions regarding water or food content in water or any of the waters or drinks that we've shown here. I know one of the things that people often ask about too is the difference between tonic water, if you're making drinks, and of course, adult drinks, the difference between a tonic water and a club soda. So tonic water can be sweetened sometimes, and it contains quinine, a particular mineral that some people actually are told they should drink it if they have a lot of muscle spasms. Flavor packets or MIO. Yes, that's another thing. Oh, I love the idea of flavored ice cubes. So just like juice in frozen juice that you put in, that's a great idea. Flavor packets. I'm just going to pop out here for a second. I had this as part of a different program. So when you look at like the vitamin waters or the different waters, there are a lot of these little flavor packets like this out there. If you're doing a lot of exercising, where where you really want to rehydrate if you have issues, these are great. But again, citric acid and salt. So this is about replenishing your sodium and your magnesium and potassium levels as you go. So there are a lot of these kind of things out there as well. But I think you definitely want to read the labels. I'm not 100% familiar with the Mio, but I know a lot of people, I see them using it in the gym, because that's the other thing. If you're working out, you don't always want to be drinking plain water. So some of these things are helpful. It's okay, Simon. Anyway, so the infusion, cucumbers, cantaloupe into a central core thing in the water. Yes, that's, you see those pictures. That's what I was talking about. As opposed to being like a regular pitcher, it has like it looks like a cage that sits in the middle, and you put all your fruit in there, and the flavor will absorb, infuse out into the water without getting all like the seeds or the pulp or anything like that when you go to drink it. So the watermelon drink, isn't this watermelon drink beautiful? I love this drink. And you know, it's so easy. And sometimes, like anything else, if you kind of forget about it, you don't think about it, so you don't make it frequently. But this is such a fun drink, and it's so flavorful. It's so tasty. And I highly recommend, if you like honeydew or cantaloupe, to do the same thing with the honeydew or cantaloupe, and just blend it up, a good one, a good ripe one that has a lot of juice to it. Blend it up with some water, some lime juice, add a little flavoring in there, whether it's mint or whatever. And it just makes such a pretty drink. And I love the glass. I always feel like if I'm drinking out of a wine stem, it feels more festive, which is another one of my tricks. Yeah, it would be very nice to have at a party. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. So great. So I think we're right up on the time here. Does anybody have any other questions? I'd be happy to stick around. Yeah, the distilled water, that's interesting. So they literally like they boil it all up so that all the vitamins and minerals stay in the bottom, and then they collect that vapor. So that's why you would say it's really good. Like if your iron gets all gucked up and you see like the white around the steam things on the iron, maybe switch to distilled water. If you have some kind of a fountain in your house and it can get little kind of gucked up at the top with the white calcium things, distilled water would not cause that. So that's the whole trick with distilled water. But yeah, it is amazing how many different waters are out there right now. If you're as old as I am, you probably never had much more than the kitchen sink growing up. So now we have all these choices, and it's pretty interesting. So very good. Well, listen, thank you all for joining. Stay cool today. Maybe you're going to go out and make yourself one of these beautiful hydrating drinks. We could certainly use it because it is pretty sticky out there. But have a wonderful day, all, and we'll see you again. Take care.